So the questions that we have, just first, I want you to introduce yourself to everybody. We are going to put this, we are streaming live on YouTube right now, but we're also going to put this interview out completely separate on its own. Okay. So I just want you to introduce yourself to, our viewers and us as a podcast, and tell us how you got into ghost hunting and all that stuff.
My name's Brittany, and I am a paranormal YouTuber. I also have seen spirits. I grew up seeing spirits, and I didn't really want to be scared of what I was seeing, which kind of made me get more interested in it. So I researched everything I possibly could. And it wasn't until after I had my son and I was actually like staying home with him that I realized being a paranormal YouTuber was a thing.
Mhm.
So that I was like, I can go and investigate these places too, which made me kind of take the jump. I'm also really into mythology, so I do a lot of mythology videos on my channel as well. So it's kind of like a combination between paranormal and mythology.
Okay. Okay. For us, I'll sit there and start with us. I mean, we've been into the paranormal, and we've been into ghost hunting and the occult and many different types of things across the board. And we have a lot of people that join us that talk about it through their different aspects. This originally, our podcast started with Big Joe and I. He's my father. We have Anthony. This is a family affair podcast.
Yes.
So we've sat there and gone through multiple different types of, subjects and different, aspects of the paranormal, just talking about our own experiences. We might not have a lot of experiences, but it's definitely experiences that we could sit there. I know for me, it makes me question and wonder, what is else out there? I know Big Joe, he's had his experiences. Dad, you want to talk about any experiences you've had?
Well, number one, when you get around to it, you can give us your YouTube channel so we can get it out there for for everybody to go and visit you. Question I got when you got started in this, did you do this alone, or you were investigating places on your own?
So I typically go with either friends or my husband. So when we first started, because going on most paranormal investigations, they cost money. So when we were first getting
Yeah.
started, we would go to free places, and it was myself, my husband, who was my fiance at the time, and our baby boy going to haunted cemeteries or haunted bridges or haunted roads and doing investigations that way. And
Right.
further down the line, I started actually going to investigate buildings. So it's kind of just basically it's whoever I'm close to that's free on the investigation take goes with me because, people are busy. And I typically try to have people who are interested, or like my husband is a huge skeptic. So he will just deny everything he can unless
Oh, we got a few of them here.
they
Right. Right. Do you find it how hard to make a skeptic into a believer, or at least the possibility of a believer?
No, like I think a lot of skeptics, this is just my personal opinion, but I think that a lot of skeptics are scared of the unknown. And that's why they go so hard on this isn't real. Because what if there is something more that can't be explained by science? Or what if there is this thing that's right next to me that I can't see with my naked eye? Like that's can be terrifying to a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. We had an incident here. I mean, we did maybe a couple of we did some cemeteries and stuff, and nothing came of it. But it happened one time that we got caught something, and we caught an EVP, and it terrified everybody because they never expected it. This is a little fun and games until something actually happens, and then they sit there and go, you know what? This is real. This is not something that somebody's making up in our head. So when we got to that point where, we actually heard this EVP, everybody stopped. Nobody wanted to go do it again. I'm like, well, that's what you came for. That's what you're here for. You could be going out there expecting, just to play games. If you get it, if you even catch something, that's why you went. That's why you were there. And that's why early on when, it all started, we started watching Ghost Hunters back in the day, and talking 12 And to me, I thought that was the right thing for them to do. I mean, when people would catch something and they're like, okay, let's try to find out where it came from or what it was. And except I guess at one time when that kid Brian ran out of the jail because he actually caught something. So yeah, that's like one of the things I really admire when people go out there and they are ghost hunting and they catch stuff and then they sit back. Okay, now we're going to figure this out. There is obviously something here. So
Real quick, Brittany, I apologize for him looking that way, and he's facing a TV, which is behind the other side. Do Elena, Tonya, do you guys want to talk about any experiences you've had, and ask Brittany some questions? No? Yes.
Do you ever, like, when you're finding, like, I guess when you've captured evidence, do you get like a feeling? Because I know, like, for me, like, any experience I've ever had, like, I get like this weird feeling, like you're being watched kind of feeling, and then something like happens.
Yeah, so I'm also an empath, so I feel energies. When I just like for an example, when I had went to the Star Clark Tin Shop in Mexico, New York, I had walked into a room and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this feels incredibly heavy." And the guide was actually like, "Yeah, this is a really heavy room. A lot of negative things have happened here." And then I felt the energy literally shift and leave the room.
Right.
So
Like,
something
the thing I
physically
kind
moved. And that same, I think it's one of the clips that I did send you guys, but I was literally doing an Estes method and I just had, like, I wasn't told, like, we need to go in another room. I just had this feeling like we need to go in that specific room. And my husband and the guide both heard through the spirit box as I was saying it. So like my headphones were off, that like agreeing that we need to go in there. So then we went into that room and it was the most active room of the investigation. Like everything was going off. The music box was going off. They were talking through the spirit box. I have this little like candle that they can play with and that was going off. So it was consistent.
Tonya?
So I touched upon it a little bit yesterday that I also, I guess you could say I kind of have kind of that intuition, that give that feeling, like I step into a room, oh, somebody's been here, something's been here. This just goes back to generations in my family. And what I wanted to ask, if you can recall, if you have the time, what, like I said, if you can remember, what is your first experience with seeing or feeling something that is not of this world, if you will?
My first experience, I don't fully remember. My mom just told me was I would just talk to things. So she started buying me dolls so that people wouldn't think that I was crazy because the TV wasn't on. I wasn't playing with toys. I was just talking to air. And then when I was about 5, I had went into the kitchen and there was a window. And I've always had this weird thing with windows. I don't love windows at night, but I had opened the fridge, so there was like the light of the fridge, and I look over towards the window, and there was this. It looked like a wolf, and it was just staring at me with like red eyes. And this thing had to have been over 6 feet tall to be able to see its head. And it's just sitting there and it's staring at me. And I live in New York, so wolves are not native and coyotes don't get that big.
Right.
So there's no explanation. I ran into my mom's room and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's something in there. Like I'm looking at something and I was terrified. And she's like, no, Brittany, you're just imagining it. Go back to bed. And by the time I walked out, it was gone. And then there's 2 more. I had a imaginary friend growing up. Her name was Bonjour. And I, didn't realize that that meant hello in French. And I was very
Did she say that was her name, or did you name her that?
relieved that she had said it.
Oh.
I just know, like, she had to eat dinner with us. My parents would set up a plate for her. And it got to the point where literally my mom bought this, like, giant doll that we bring around with us because she was like, okay, well, you're going to talk to this thing anyways. Might as well make it less weird. And then my grandmother passed when I was 6. And I was seeing her consistently sitting on the bed having full on conversations with her. So I wasn't really like grieving because she was still there. Well, my mom and my sister were upset about it. And my sister would tell my mom, like, you need to make Brittany stop because I'm scared. Because of I was just having these in-depth conversations. My mom would sit down on my bed and I'd be like, no, you're sitting on grandma. You need to move.
Here's me over him.
It's
With
been
the
something I've
blood
always
thing.
seen.
That's
What?
that's very interesting because look,
Touch on that a little bit.
yeah, again, okay, so
Can I?
okay, just real quick, I do want to say last night, like we record our podcast episodes in advance. Like we're recording our season 17, I believe, right now, but what's airing right now on our YouTube channel, season 16. So the episode that we recorded last night was Shadow People, and we originally had an episode all the way back 5 years ago when we originally did this podcast. It was just me and me, Dad, and two other people that did that. But this one, we had different people, different, talking about different situations. And Tonya, she was talking about seeing shadow animals, and everyone in the booth was like, "We've never heard that." Like, to be honest, like I've never heard of I've heard of shadow people, but seeing shadow animals is something I've never heard of. And for you to, see something like that in the window, that's why Tanya, you saw her stare back at me, because it's someone that is, saying something exactly like she was experiencing. Which again is like, I've never heard of shadow animals. It's always been shadow people, shadow people, the Hat Man, all that. But I've never heard of like shadow animals. So this is very interesting. That it's another coincidental. Yeah, yeah. This is for Anthony. Anthony's watching upstairs. Yeah, Anthony is our skeptic in the booth. That's our brother. He's our skeptic. So I do have another question. So out of all the haunted places you've been, which one changed you the most?
I've always been a believer just because I've had so many experiences. I've been grabbed in the middle of the night, like physically grabbed by a shadow person. So I wouldn't necessarily say change, but the one that was the most active was probably the SK Pierce Mansion. So that's in Massachusetts. And it was like the third floor was where they kept the servants. Like that was the servants' quarters. And there was one room. It was just this really negative room. And the men held Freemasons meetings in there. And they had this closet that is literally called the SA because it was believed that they would take women and do things to them there. And in this room, my music box would not work. My camera would not work. They were both full battery, like new batteries, and it wouldn't work. But then I brought it back down to the first floor and it started working again. They just did not want us in that room. As we were going up to the third floor, there is this bathroom that you can see from the stairs. And I looked, like I turned my head and I looked into it. And when I looked, I saw a woman. And so I've seen spirits as like shadow people. I've seen spirits as like basically people shrouded in light, almost kind of like angelic. And then but the most common spirit that I see looks like a living, breathing human. Like they look solid. And there was a woman standing in the bathroom. So I'm sitting there and I'm staring at her and she's looking back at me. And then the guide like walks back because I'm not coming because I'm just staring at this woman. And she's like, "What's taking you so long?" And I tell her like, "I just saw a woman." And she's like, "There was a servant who ended up like," I'm trying to think of the correct verbiage she used because I know YouTube censors things or like they're like picky with things, but she ended up unaliving herself. That's the term.
Okay.
In that bathroom. So that was the woman I was seeing. And I struggled with like depression and stuff. Like I had postpartum and stuff. I've lost both of my parents. And so I've dealt with a lot of things. So I feel like that allowed her to connect with me more and want to show herself to me. But I had no prior knowledge. Like that's not something if you research about this mansion, that's not something you really find. So that was pretty crazy that the guide was like, "Oh, hey." And then I can stay at a haunted place as long as like they'll allow me there. But I did leave the skiing manor before my investigation was done because the spirits were draining my energy so much.
Mhm.
And like to the point where the guide, like, I'm a pretty fair toned skin person. And she was like, "You look like white.
Yeah, pale as a
Like
ghost.
you are going to pass out." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I kept asking them to stop. And yeah, they're just not listening." So I was there probably like 5 hours less than I could have been. Like I was there still 6 hours. So I was there a while. But I could have been there longer. And I was just like, my body just my energy cannot physically take this anymore.
That's a good thing that you did that because a lot of times people think that they're stronger than they are, and they're going to sit there and we're going to soldier through this, and it's you felt threatened, you felt like it was time to go, and you acted on it, and that's probably the best thing you could have done at that point because. When you talk to people about this, they're like, yeah, it's all a bunch of bullshit. Well, it's not. And if you just take the time to realize, people would realize that you got to protect yourself first. And I
Yeah,
think,
I completely agree.
by doing what you did is, probably the best thing you could have done because, it's fight or flight at that point. You want to live to see another day. And, you don't want to scar yourself so bad that you might not want to do this anymore either. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories where people were like, they're gun ho and they're doing it for 4 or 5 years. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Um, Lorraine Warren's nephew, I believe he is. He was, he was doing this for years, but it took him one time and he saw something he really wasn't supposed to. And he was going to call it quits that day. And it took him a good 4 or 5 years to go back to investigate this stuff, again. So, yeah, you did the right thing at that point by not pushing it. I give you a lot of credit for that.
You guys have any questions over there?
Well, I just had a thing about just a question back to what you were saying before with the doll thing. Like my mom kind of did the same thing, except for my dolls would like move around
Oh my gosh.
and and they would like blink when it was like when you lay a doll down and the eyes like open automatically or whatever, it would like wink or like blink basically. And I ended up putting her in the attic. It was like the American Girl doll collection. I don't know if you had those, but
I didn't have them, but I do know what they are.
yeah. And I never saw that doll again. I lived in the attic for a while, never found her. And she always
Just
freaked
gone.
me out because at night I would hear things like if she was in the thing, it would just like open up. Like if she was in the closet, I'd put her like under things, and that between that and you remember Furbies?
Yes.
We pulled batteries out of the Furby and we shoved it in the basement because it wouldn't stop, and it would just be like Furby like all night. And we were like, we pulled the batteries out. How
Don't
is
we
it
have a
still
Furby over here?
going? And
We have a
I
Furby
don't,
over here.
I don't like Furbies now, but like it made me think like, did your parents believe you? Like kind of like did they? I don't know. Like why? Because for me, like dolls have like a certain like paranormal kind of connotation to them. Like they, like they can get like not. Can they get possessed? Right? Yeah.
Haunted.
So would that have made it like easier? Like, what did your parents feel about the whole situation? Like, did you tell them and stuff?
Well, I'm a very open person, so I would tell my mom everything, and she believed in everything. And I think it was a matter of how much she thought it was going to scare me,
Mm-hmm.
whether she was going to agree with me or not. But my dad, he he only admitted in like the paranormal if I was not the one talking about it.
Okay.
So if I brought up like, "Hey, this is happening. I just saw this." He's like, "No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Like, why are you saying that?" No. Like, "No, but I did." And he goes, "No, stop lying. Like, that's not real." And I think it was just he believed in it, but when I was saying that I saw it, it was confirming things with him.
Right.
So he was just like, "No, that's not real. It's
Yeah.
in your head."
Yeah, my mom was the same, but she was just like, I think it was because we were kids, she was trying to protect us. And then when we got older, she was like, she's like, I was kind of sad when we left the house because we had sold the house. And she was like, I think the ghosts miss us because I think they liked us there. And I was like, I looked at her, I was like, seriously? I was like, I used to tell you stuff, you'd be like, that's nothing. And she's like, I used to hear little girls, like, she'd hear little girls playing and think it was us, but we were in school.
Yeah.
Like I would, she's like, I think that the ghosts really miss us. I'm like, okay,
I mean,
but
it's always good to have a good relationship with the spirit residents in your.
because I was always scared that it was gonna like they were gonna hurt us or whatever, and my mom's like, well, if they were gonna hurt us, they would have killed us like a while ago, or like whatever they were gonna do, like they hadn't done anything. So my mom's like, maybe they were just lonely or whatever. So we kind of like incorporated them into like I don't know, like we just acknowledged them, and then like stuff kind of would happen every once in a while, and that's it. We didn't really there was one room in the house where all the guests that would sleep in there would have like these horrifying nightmares and they would like at night and like my mom's uncle from South America would came up and he was like, I saw this bloody woman like hanging like from her neck from the ceiling and I couldn't move and like this and that. Like everyone has like almost like a sleep paralysis situation, but it was only ever in that room and that room always gave me like a really unsettling feeling. Like I also like kind of feel like an empath, so it was a weird heaviness that I just like I felt like I needed to get the hell out of there. Like I need to go was like the feeling I got when I would get in that room. And
Well, it
that's the
sounds
only room
like
that ever
something
scared.
like bad happened in it then. If people are having dreams like that and then you're getting that feeling.
Yeah. But we just kind of steered clear of that room. That it was like off the living room, so like, we didn't really. Have you
Oh,
ever like experienced anything demonic? I'm wondering.
that was gonna be my next question.
So I think there are a lot of people that not saying that like demons don't exist and stuff, but you will find that especially in the paranormal world and like YouTube, because a lot of time YouTube is like people want views, right? So there's a lot of performance in a lot of YouTubers. And people be like, oh, like it said evil, so it must be demonic, but it might just be either A, the spirit doesn't want you there, doesn't want to talk to you, so they're like, okay, like go away. Or B, it's just not a great human. And there was my most terrifying encounter was like what I had mentioned briefly before was getting grabbed in the middle of the night.
Mhm.
So this was at my old apartment. I had a roommate, and so she was sleeping in her room, so she had no idea any of this was happening. And I woke up at 1 a.m. to this like horrible pain around my ankle. Like it felt like somebody was gripping it really tightly. And I didn't have a TV in the room. I didn't have any lights. The curtains were open, so the only light from like in the room was from the moon. And I look down and I see a shadow man crouched at the end of my bed, and I could physically see its hand wrapped around my ankle. And I'm a really light sleeper, so I'm fully awake. So I like jump up and I hit the light switch and then it disappears. So then I'm like, okay, well, I need to get out of my room. Like it was the worst feeling I've ever had. Like it was so negative. As I'm passing my door, it's slightly ajar. I see what looks like a physical man behind my door. So I go into the bathroom, and so it was like my bedroom, the bathroom, and then my roommate's bedroom. So I'm like, okay, I need to figure out if this is a physical person in my bedroom. So I leave the door open and I wait for probably like 5 minutes, catching my breath. I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to go check. So I go back in my room, nobody behind the door, open the closet, shuffle through, nobody. I didn't have a bed frame at that time. So my mattress was literally on the floor. So they're not hiding under the bed. And I'm on the second story. So they didn't go out the window and they didn't walk past me. So I'm like, it wasn't a physical person. So eventually I fall back asleep. 2 weeks later, I end up meeting a psychic at a fair. And my dad paid for my first tarot card reading. And then she like stops me. She's like, is there anything else that you want to tell me? Actually. So I told her about it. And she's like, you have three. And I still talk to this woman. So I know that she's not just like bells and whistles. And she's like, you have three really negative spirits in your room. I'm like, awesome. So she did a cleansing and I never saw them again, but it's one of the few encounters that I've actually been afraid because since learning about spirits, I go a lot off their energy and I like I've seen spirit. I don't like seeing them at night. I don't like seeing them when I'm supposed to be sleeping. Like, this is my time, go away. But I've literally walked into my room, seen a man standing by my bed. I'm like, okay, well, I want to go to sleep, so you gotta go, and then I'll just go to bed because I don't feel a negative energy from them. So I'm just like, okay, well, this is my time. If you want to talk to me, you can come back. Like, come back during business hours.
I actually want to follow up and ask, how do you make sure, after you leave these haunted spaces or even, in your own room, like you've experienced, I know you had somebody come and cleanse, but when you go out and do your investigations, how do you make sure nothing follows you home?
So
What precautions do you take?
I used to use just like regular sage where you light it and like swirl it around you essentially. And now I
Sage?
have a sage spray. It has like sage, Palo Santo, it's blessed. And I typically use that. And I think belief, like having a strong belief does help with that as well. Like setting the boundary in your mind. I'm sure that I do have attachments. I wouldn't be surprised.
Or
When we were leaving Skeen Manor, my friend and I, we were like, I started feeling really nauseous, like I was going to throw up, but I get car sick. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's just me getting car sick. Because I don't throw up when I get car sick. I just get really nauseous. And then she's like, as soon as I'm thinking it, she's like, wow, I feel really nauseous. And I'm like, and she's like, that never happens to me, like I ever. And I'm like, okay, well, this is a thing. So we stopped at the nearest gas station because we were going to wait till we got back to her house in Sage. And because we were like, we just need to leave. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to stop and we're going to do this. And then we both felt fine. Like it was instant relief.
do you set an intention? Do you say anything? Is there anything that you do in particular?
We
Okay.
set an intention that like no negative things are meant to follow us home. Like you need to stay where you are. Thank you for communicating with us, but you're going to stay here. We're going to leave. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Like I just uploaded a video today to my channel and I don't think my house is haunted, but I think that there are spirits that pass through. And I just don't think there's like resident spirits. And one of the spirit box questions that I had asked, and this was in my home, was if the spirit was from a previous investigation. And the response I got was, you didn't see me, which leads me to believe that it might have been. I just didn't see it.
Right, literally.
Yeah. And that actually, during that video, when I was filming, I was very sick when I was filming, but I had this weird sickness and my throat only hurt at night when I woke up, like that burning sensation. But during the day, like it didn't hurt. I just couldn't talk. And I felt a pain right here. And it was like burning. It was so painful. It was out of nowhere. And I was basically like, is this you? Like, what is this?
Because you didn't see it.
And
It was like, now I'm not going to let you talk.
yeah. So it literally, as I'm like talking to the camera saying like, oh my God, like, what is this? It says, I burn. And I'm like, I told my husband, and he's always like, what are you bringing in here? What are you doing? What are you summoning? Like, nothing. I'm not doing anything.
Anybody have? I mean, I have a whole slew of questions.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So how do you prepare yourself before going into a location that's considered dangerous or high energy?
I just try to do as much research as possible. I'm probably not as good at protecting my own energy as I could be,
Mhm.
but I think like the best thing you could do is setting a positive intention, trying to set a boundary, making sure that you have stuff for after the investigation because you're going to be like messing with energies and trying to be as like respectful as you can to not anger them, to not make them want to go after you.
Okay, Tonya.
I was going to ask, because you talk about, being respectful, entering these spaces. I know some people leave offerings. Do you find that helps potentially maybe?
I think that it can, but it just kind of depends on the spirit.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the times, I feel like sometimes the offerings are meant as more like people leave offerings as like trigger objects sometimes instead of actually this is for the spirit.
What do you mean trigger objects?
It's a trigger object is basically something to make a spirit react more. So, like, if they like alcohol in their, like, when they were human, when they were alive, hey, do you want to have a drink with me? Like, something to make them feel more welcomed, or even sometimes it's like angering them.
Oh.
Yeah, I never purposely try to anger a spirit because, like, if I was a spirit, I wouldn't want to be purposely angered.
Right.
But there's at the one of my first investigations that I ever did was at the cemetery in Middleburg, and it was or maybe it was Skahari, but it was the grave of the Burn Witch, and people would leave coins as an offering. So it was like, thank you for communicating with us. Will you accept my offering? And if they said yes, you leave a coin. And it's just kind of like a peaceful thank you type thing.
All right. Sorry. What's your approach to separating what might be paranormal from what's just environmental noise or coincidence?
So I'm decent, like, even though I really believe in this stuff, I am decently skeptical. Like, I'm pretty sure that I left this part in just to show, like, I'm not just going to jump at whatever sound and be like, oh, hey, this is it. And when I was investigating this SK Pierce mansion, which was like the most active place that I have, like, the girl I was with was very much like, oh my gosh, like, what's that? And I was like, it's the car outside. And even the guide was like, no, I don't think so. It's like, there's literally a car, right? Like, that is the noise. And even, I don't trust a lot of photos, and not even as far as people doctoring them, but, with them being blurry and, people moving their hand quick, like, it can look like there's something there when there's not.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing that I dealt with a lot with the specific girl that I went with, was she was like, oh my gosh, look at this picture. And I'm like, I don't see anything. So it's just like, maybe you do, but I don't. I'm not going to tell you that there's nothing there, but I don't see anything. And you just really have to rule any outside sources out. Like, if with the like the PMB, the paranormal music box, if there is something making it go off and there is nothing in front of it, okay, turn it back on. Is it still happening? Because that's not just a glitch. It's something actually there walking in front of it. Because I've had it go off for like 30 minutes straight before. Turn it off, wait a few minutes, turn it back on, still going off. Take it somewhere else, doesn't do it. So it's literally changing locations, changing like the equipment, seeing what you get, and making sure it's not just a car or your hands moving. Or like when I went to the Star Clark tin shop, I ended up jumping because you hear a noise, but there's a squirrel running across this the lip in the ceiling. And I'm like, most people, if you hear it from afar and you weren't in the room, you didn't see it, like, oh my gosh, like, was that a spirit? But no, it was just a squirrel. So it kind of depends on the location, and taking certain things with a grain of salt, but not immediately discounting everything either.
I think, in a way, you got a lot of these TV shows. Now, I referred before to the ghost hunters, and I kind of like what they do. They're going to rule out everything before they're going to label it haunted. I mean, some of the stuff that some of the evidence come up, you got to look at it and go like, no, I'm sorry, I can't buy into that. However, that show, you've gone seasons in that show where there's been, nothing. They rule everything out. There's nothing haunted, whatever. And then you got the likes of guys like Zach Bagans, who everything is haunted. Our drive over is haunted. The steps are haunted. And at that point, you got to turn that off too. I said, I can't watch that. I can't, because when you get to the point where everything is haunted, it becomes meaningless at that point. And nobody can differentiate between what is real and what is not. It's kind of like with the JFK assassination. You got 10,000 theories and none of them can be proven, but there might be 4 or 5 good ones in there that you got to look at and go, wait a minute, this can be almost proven. We have enough evidence to go in this direction. And I think that's what's really holding back a lot of, I guess, people are making people not believe it, because then, like Zach Bagans, like I said, he believes that everything is haunted. You can't take it, I don't believe a word the guy says, to be honest with you. Now, with the ghost hunters, yeah, I mean, I believe that some of their evidence was actually for the TV show. I believe it was planted there, set up. I mean, there's a few, like the one time they went down to Eastern State Penitentiary where they caught that spirit supposedly. To me, if you look at it close enough, it looks like a cartoon. I don't know if it's right or it's wrong or whatever. I wasn't there, and thank God I wasn't there. So I think that it depends on, like, you're in the field, you're up close and personal with this stuff. You can differentiate what is real, what isn't. And that makes all the difference in the world at this point. But if there was more people like you, it would end like credit. It'd give credit to the actual paranormal community. I'm going to say ghost hunting because that's kind of like paranormal is where I want to go with that. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Ghost hunting makes it sound like what do you do? When you hunt something, you shoot it, you take it home.
Yeah.
You don't do that with ghosts. I got one other question. I want to. What do you think, and what is your opinion about what a spirit is? Why is it trapped here? Why is it in that situation that it's in?
I think that this can go multiple directions. I think that there are people so I'm an ominous. I believe in basically everything.
Okay.
So I believe that there is like the Christian God, but then there's also Zeus, essentially. So there's pieces of every religion that is accurate, essentially, is what I believe in. And for me, I think that there are some spirits that go to whatever heaven they want or believe in and can choose to come down here because they enjoy it, because they want to check on family members, because they want to see their old house, because they have some connection. But then I also believe that there's some that are kind of stuck and don't know how to move forward or are trapped, and even sometimes trapped by other spirits who are more negative and want to control them.
All right.
That's
Tonya,
kind
you
of
have a question?
more or less touched on what I was going to ask next. Like, say you enter this space, you make contact, you have them, you have their presence there. What, besides proving that they're real, what's the name of the game? What's the plan here? What's the move? What do you do with them if they are struggling to move on into the afterlife because they are, they're not restful spirits? What do you do then? What do you do there? How do you help them out?
There are times where I will try to help a spirit. However, a lot of places that you pay to investigate have rules where you cannot cross over a spirit.
Really?
You have to sign a contract when you go. So you're basically, part of it is they're not liable if you get hurt.
Mhm.
And then the other aspect of that is, at the end of the day, they're making money off this.
Right. But
So
you enter this space and they're like, for, let's say hypothetically, there's a spirit here. It's causing a ruckus. We want it to move on. We want it to leave. What do you do in that case?
I think that there's different like rituals you can do. And then on top of that, you can just like try to, with questions, different methods between like trying to communicate with them on your own, along with using tools like the spirit box or the S's method, trying to really figure out why they're still there.
Okay.
And when we went to the skiing manor, I had through the spirit box, and like I'd asked with like the couples, I'd asked numerous times if the one woman there was being trapped by this really dark entity that I actually physically saw. And I can only describe it as like a man shrouded in darkness because it looked like a physical man, but it had this like almost like these dark black flames around him, like this cloud of smoke. It was so negative, and I think that's what was really drawing my energy, because I also believe that that specific spirit was the reason why one of the sons had unalived himself. And it's more so like it's hard because you can find the answers, but if this spirit is stronger than you might not be able to help. If the spirit you're trying to help believes that that spirit is stronger than you helping them in their own power, at the end of the day, there's not always much you can do.
So what I'm hearing is basically you're a ghost therapist. Is that what I'm led to understand?
Could be.
All right, Brittany, I do have two more questions for you. One, is there any one piece of evidence you've captured that still gives you the chills to this day?
No, not really, just because like I said, I'm not really surprised by anything. I just get excited.
Mm-hmm.
There are two videos that are up. The one is like my Lake Lanier video, and I don't remember the name of the other one, but I didn't catch it until with the Lake Lanier one, I didn't even catch it until I was watching it back. Like, it was already edited, so I didn't intentionally clip this. I didn't slow it down, nothing. And you can physically see my hair being pulled, and it's from the inside out.
Oh,
So it's not like me shaking my head, like tilted, because when I talk, like, I'm very animatic and I move my head and stuff a lot and I use my arms a lot. So it wasn't like me pulling my hair accidentally or me tilting my head or me like like brushing my hair.
mm.
It was literally from the inside out, pulled out. And I'm like, what? Like that? Did that just happen? And then there was another in a different video. I didn't catch this one till the editing process, but I had seen my hair moved again. And that one was really funny because while I was filming that video, I had seen a little boy buy my son's toys. And he was just staring at me. And then he disappeared. And it was the same video where my hair gets pulled. And that night or that morning, I was woken up like sometime really early in the morning to this little boy's voice going, "Hey, lady," and like this old New York timey accent. And it woke me up out of a dead sleep. Like, it was very different than dreaming. It was almost like my son had shouted, and it's just a maternal instinct to wake up and to go back, like when I was editing, and see that something physical had happened to me to align with what I had seen and then what I had heard. It's like, that's pretty crazy because it's just so undeniable.
That's extremely creepy. I mean, going into like my own experiences when I had just any type of like I've heard people call my name. You know, I've seen a shadow person in my doorway. I explained that in the episode we were talking about last night for shadow people. We investigated my grandmother's house and we didn't really catch much. We thought we might have caught a little girl's voice in my grandmother's bedroom, but like it was we went into it like we know like my grandparents have been living there since the 50s and you know stuff like that. So they were away on vacation. We were just goofing around and just messing around, trying to be ghost hunters. I was um
How old are you?
this was, oh God, 10, 15 years ago, maybe?
15 years ago.
Yeah, this was about 10, 15. Well, yeah, we would have permission to get in the house. But we didn't know at the time, but, we're talking to my grandmother about, like, what we might have caught. And she goes, that's interesting. We're like, why? And she goes, well, because before we owned the place, a little girl did die in this house. And we went, no way. No way. That's just too coincidental. And then we looked it up, and there was a little girl who did die in the house. Yeah, it was very, like...
The house, we're talking about the house next door.
Yeah.
That house about 260 years old. Maybe even more now. I think it was late 1700s. So we're talking 250.
This one too?
Huh?
This one too?
No,
this house has only been here since 53.
Oh.
Yeah.
But that's been in so many different incarnations. Now the latest one you see with the new people bought it. So, and I don't know, Brittany, maybe you can help me out on this. When people start renovating houses, if there's some kind of activity, if there's something there, sometimes it actually awakens some of these spirits, the ones that don't want the house to be renovated.
Mhm.
And next door, they actually did.
That's like Beetlejuice. That's literally.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I've never seen Beetlejuice. Anyways, but there's been so many times that house has been renovated, and I can honestly believe in my heart that I heard the EVP, so I know, I know what the little girl said, and it was. You sit there for, I lived in a house for 27 years before I got married. So you go, I saw things, but, you chalk it to, there's a truck driving down the street, that doll moved or that figurine moved. This was blatant. This was right there. It was, I put the voice recorder down and, we go to review it and all we heard, clear as a bell too. What's that? And then, hi. And then I'm playing this back again. I'm like, I didn't play any of this till the next day, so it's not like I can go there and question it, And I have gone back many times and tried to question it, and I got nothing. So I don't know. I mean, my mind playing tricks on me. Who knows? I don't know. But I know what I heard on that recorder. It's a little strange. I know.
All right. I have the last question. I do have a fun question. If you could take the Is This Your Crew on any ghost hunting place and have us ghost hunt,
I'm not involved in that one. Sorry.
Where would you take us?
If it was a place that escape here, just because it was so active, my like one of my dream locations to investigate would probably be Alcatraz.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'd love to investigate Alcatraz.
You have fun with that.
There's a lot there. There's a lot of
that is a really good. Like my dream location is Eastern State.
Yeah.
And Dad and I, we did have experience. We went down to Florida. We did have one experience in St. Augustine Lighthouse about hearing the whistle, where everybody hears that. We did hear the whistle.
Yeah, that kind of like was a little strange to me. We walked in the place, there was nobody in the building, and as we walked in, we're talking to each other. You go up a couple of steps, and there's a bucket there. I mean, the ghost hunters were there, so and it's exactly like they said. But I mean, we didn't see any shadows on the stairs or anything like that. But after a while, I said to Joey, "Wait, Joey, what is that whistling?" And sure enough, when we got out of there, they had heard that in ghost hunters. I never put two and two together when we were in the building, except, when it was too late. We were out of the building and I'm like, what the hell was going on in there? And it was strange. It was strange. Whether it was the wind blown to the wind, I don't know, but we did hear some whistling. And another time we were Joey and I were at Ellis Island and we were in the main room. It's a gigantic, I don't know if you've ever been to Ellis Island, but it's it's almost like an airport hangar. And we were on the second floor, and now our names are Joe. So it was quiet. It was nothing going on. And all I heard was Joe, and it echoed through the building. Now I'm thinking it's my wife. I turn around, and there's nobody there. So I said to Joey, is your mother around, maybe hiding in one of these rooms? He goes, Dad, I don't think so. Last I saw, Mom was sitting on a picnic bench outside. Sure enough, we left the building. She was there, and something called our name. Now, again, it's Ellis Island. You know how many souls have passed through Ellis Island over the years? Millions, you know what I mean? But that was a freaky day. That's enough to make you sit there and go, okay, you know what? Maybe this is not what I want to do. I don't want to go chasing these things. So have you ever had that? Have you ever had like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to do this anymore.
No. I've always been really passionate about it. There's times where I get a little creeped out. Like I was living at home and my parents had left and like my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was living with us, and we're kind of like a few months away from getting an apartment. And he was taking classes after work, so he wasn't getting home till like 7. My parents had left, and I was so convinced that somebody had broken into our house.
Wow.
Because the toaster oven turned on and the front door was open when it wasn't open when they had left. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's someone in here. Like, I was in tears. I was so convinced that there was somebody in this house. And my parents come home because they had went grocery shopping. And my dad walks in, he's just laughing at me. And I'm like, I'm scarred right now. And he's like, you're just crazy. Like, I don't get, like I said, like I go off energies and I'm just really passionate. I think the spirits deserve a voice that they might not be able to give themselves. And it's just, there's so much out there that I think we're really only just touching the surface of it.
Absolutely.
I agree. I mean, last night in our podcast, the skeptical son of mine, he wants everything in black and white. He wants meters. We have to scientifically prove everything. And I'm looking at him and say, Anthony, but we are. It's a slow process. Voice recorders, stuff like that. That's where it's going to start. You're not going to just jump into it and then, you're going to take pictures of it and they're going to pose for you. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to grind out science. And he loves science. Everything with him is science. And to a point, to a fault sometimes. It drives me crazy. But I understand you want to prove this stuff, but it takes time. We all have to do our part to try to make it. We may never see that. We may, our generations may never see that. It might be 300 to 400 years from now. We don't know. It's baby steps.
We all have the capability of seeing spirits and hearing spirits because we are spirit. So some people have more capability than others because they don't have as many blocks. Like society told us for the longest time that these things weren't real. And if you saw something, you were crazy. Like how could that be real? So even if you still believe in it, your subconscious is keeps getting told, no, this isn't real. So you're getting blocks, even if you're not trying to, or fear can create blocks. Trauma can create blocks. So it's just a matter of, it's a skill and it's something you need to work on, and you can work on it through meditation. And it's something that everybody is capable of if they truly want to be.
That's the key. That's the key. People want to do this as a hobby. People want to go like, I would go to the cemetery, and we didn't catch anything. You know what I mean? The time, I don't have a lot of time. You know what I mean? So, but if you're passionate like you are, and you have the time to do this stuff, there's not a lot of people like that. Everybody's going to be, I'll do it tomorrow, and I'll do it for an hour. And then, I'm going to go to Rutt's Hut, get a hot dog or something like that. People don't take it serious enough right now. But if they walked into their house and somehow their hair was pulled and nobody was there, or the toaster oven goes flying off the thing, or, the light fixture comes slamming down, they're instant believers. And then they don't want nothing to do with it. So it's like, you're too frightened to do this, but you're not. And the other side, you're not frightened enough to take it real. You got to meet somewhere in the middle, and that's where I think hopefully paranormal, will eventually get. I hope that way anyway. But one other question I have for you: have you ever been up to the Pine Bush Cemetery in New York? I have no idea where it is. My friend used to go up there.
If it's the one off of Kings Road, there's like a cemetery that's hidden. Like, you have to go through the woods to get to it. It's not far from the Pine Bush, like the nature preserve.
Okay.
And we had once after some like family gathering, my husband had seen the sign and he's like, oh, this looks right up your alley. Like, let's go find where this is. So we had went through and we found it. And it's this little tiny cemetery that's gated all the way across it. So you can't go into the cemetery, but you can stand outside of the gates. And it's a really short video because we weren't there long, just because our phones were almost dead. And like, we were trying to film a video because it was very impromptu. So we didn't have equipment. We didn't have anything really. And so I had the Spirit Box app on my phone, which I tend to use both. I use the app on my phone and I use the Spirit Box because personally, I can see how people are like, oh, well, these are like made to generate things for you. But then I also think it's an electronic device. A spirit can use it just like they can use any electronic device. So I tend to typically use both to kind of see if they coincide with each other. But at this point, like I said, very impromptu. So I was just using that. So we're filming on my husband's phone, which he ran out of storage. Okay, well, I guess we're done. And it was myself. We only had my son at the time. I have a son and daughter now. And him. But it was cool to see. It's not far from the road. I'm not sure if that's the one that you're talking about.
I'm not sure either. I mean, my buddy was always telling me they'd go up there to look. It was supposed to be a really place set back in the woods, but they are also up there. They're looking for UFOs too. But that's a subject of another, on a whole other spectrum. And
I believe in aliens too.
Yeah, so do I. Next door?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, we
No, it had to be
know.
early 1900s. I think she might. My mother said she was sick.
Okay.
Again, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I know for a fact there was a young girl that did die in that house. So.
And then for Brittany, you've mentioned bringing your kids along to these investigations. Are they not more vulnerable to attachments? Do you feel? Not that I'm questioning your parenting, but do you feel safe bringing them?
Yeah, I do. I would never take them to somewhere that is known to have a negative entity or a negative spirit. I typically do a lot of research before I step into a place anyways. So even if it's a cemetery, I typically research it a lot. But So, like, if I know there's something bad, my kids are staying far away. But I don't think that they're any more susceptible to getting an attachment than we are. I think they are more susceptible to seeing something than we are. But I think anybody can really get attachments. And like my son, he's kind of wavered. He hit a phase where he was really scared of it, but I'm a firm believer in it. So I'm like, hey, like, most spirits, they're not bad. They're not going to hurt you. And
So that-
we
that's true.
talk through it.
I'm sure, growing up in it, they're cool with it, but I'm sure they might have experienced or seen something that kind of was like, "Oh, this is too much for me."
The only thing he's ever seen, he thought that he saw me. I was in the kitchen, I was doing laundry, and he thought he saw me going upstairs. So he was yelling like mom, mom. So I was like what? And then he's yelling upstairs. So I like walk out of the kitchen and I go upstairs and why are you yelling? Like I'm literally in the kitchen. And he's like, oh no, I saw you go upstairs. And I was like, you what? Like, not okay with that. And when I talked to my psychic friend about it, and she believes that it was my mom and that he thought it was me because, like, there are certain traits that we are similar. And if he just saw it quick, then thinking it was me. But I had seen a mimic of my mom when I was young.
Wow.
So, where
Okay,
I was
well,
Probably that.
all right, please continue.
Our next week's episode is doppelgangers next week when we're talking about it. So,
was working at a nursing home at the time, so she was wearing scrubs and she left for work. And I actually had a friend over and she was outside with my sister and my mom's light was off. But I had known that she left for work, so I had seen the back of a woman that looked just like my mom in scrubs in her room. And because I thought she left for work, I walked in and she turned on the light and I was like, Mom, and then it disappeared as soon as I hit on the light.
Wow.
And I ran out and told my sister and my friends, and it really scared my friends. So my sister's like, no, Brittany's kidding. But that was the only time I've ever seen one. So I don't know if it was a mimic. I don't know if it was my mom for my son. But he's never really talked about seeing anything. He's never talked to anything. He did get scared. We went to Fayetteville. It's in New Hampshire, maybe. It's like this abandoned town, but it's this you can just drive like this. It's all public land and you can drive down it. And if you go, I would take something that's, meant for off-roading because a regular car won't do it. But we were using like this obulus type thing. And it said like something about bodies, something about like being dead or something. And my son heard it and he started crying. So we're like, oh, okay. Guess it's time to go. But he's recently asked me, he's like, Mom, I want to go. He's 6. And he's like, Mom, I want to go, or Mommy. He doesn't say Mom yet, thankfully. But he's like, Mommy, I really want to go on a paranormal investigation with you. And like more than just like bridges or roads and stuff that we typically do with him. And I was like, okay, well, are you sure? Like, you're not going to be scared? He's like, no, I won't. And he's like, well, would it be past my, or I was like, it's going to be later. And he goes, would it be past my bedtime? I was like, well, yeah. And he goes, that's okay. I just sleep in the car. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, but so you're not going to be scared if you see something? And he goes, no. Like, you're not going to be scared if you hear something scary? And he goes, no. And I'm like, okay, well, are you sure? Like, even if you see something? He goes, yeah, well, Mommy sees stuff sometimes. He goes, how can you see them? They're invisible. Well, not always to Mommy. And he goes, oh, okay. And so he recently has an interest in actually going. The nice thing about going on private investigations that you pay for is that you don't have to worry about random people coming up. So even it might be more dangerous if like there's a negative entity, but it's safer in the sense that there's no like I'm much more scared of people than I am
Yeah, I agree.
the spiritual world.
all right. Well, Brittany, I do want to thank you. This has been awesome. Seriously. Thank you for spending our Halloween live with us and sharing your experiences, answering our questions. Before we let you go, please tell everyone where they can follow you and check out your investigations.
My YouTube is Brittany Briere. So it's BrittanyBriere. And that's where I post all of the investigations. It's the same on TikTok and Instagram, but I post the full investigations on YouTube.
All right, we'll make sure that everyone goes and follows all of her platforms. We will definitely show you some love on Is This Real and all of our personals. And if you're into real paranormal investigations, legends, or anything that goes bump in the night, this is the place you want to be. Brittany, again, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We loved having you, and we'd love to have you even more for any type of investigations that we may do or episodes that we could use your expertise on.
Okay, yeah, I'd love that. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, good night, Brittany. Thank you very much.
Bye.
That's sick.